Hello students, I am Seetu Jaisawal, your English teacher. Today I am going to teach you part 2 of lesson 4 from your English book Beehive. Students, the name of this lesson is A Truly Beautiful Mind, which is about the life journey of the famous scientist Albert Einstein. Students, the title of this lesson, A Truly Beautiful Mind, may let you wonder how a scientist's mind can be beautiful. It is so because in this lesson we will come across another aspect of Einstein's personality. Besides being a scientist, he was a humanitarian. He advocated world peace and democracy. That is why the title refers to him as a truly beautiful mind. So students, first of all, we will see what we have learnt in part 1 of this lesson. Students, Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm. He was a late talker. His mother thought him freak because of his strange behavior. Otto Neugebauer, the historian of ancient mathematics, called him a legend. Einstein began learning to play violin at the age of 6 and later became a gifted violinist. He went to high school in Munich but left the school due to its strict discipline. Einstein continued his education in German-speaking Switzerland. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. Einstein joined a university in Zurich where he met Mileva Maric, whom he fell in love with. He saw in her an ally against the Philistines. He did a job as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. Doing this job, he developed his own ideas in secret. Thus started his journey of becoming a great scientist. Now students, we will know about what we are going to read in this second part of this lesson. Students, in this part, we are going to read about Einstein's special theory of relativity. It was a scientific revolution and it made him famous all over the world. Besides being a scientist, Einstein was a humanitarian too. He made many efforts to establish world peace. Now students, we will start reading the lesson from this paragraph. All of you, please pay attention to me and understand the meaning of difficult words. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. Students, here the meaning of difficult words. Relativity, being connected to and affected by something else. Absolute means complete. Students, according to this theory, the special theory of relativity, the measurement of time and distance is not absolute. He gave us an example that if there are two clocks and both are moving, they will not show the same time. One clock will move faster than the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, m for mass and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum, about 3 lakh kilometers per second. When you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. When you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That is relativity, Albert Einstein. Students, vacuum means a space that is completely empty of all substances, including air or other gases. Students, Albert Einstein has given us the most famous and basic formula of physics. According to this formula, E is equal to mc square. E stands for energy, m for mass, c for the speed of the light in a vacuum. Vacuum means a place where there is no air. And here the speed of light is almost 3 lakh kilometers per second. To put it in simpler words, Einstein said that when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. And when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That is relativity, means one person would feel the timing differently. Now students, here are the comprehension questions. What was Einstein's special theory of relativity? According to the Einstein's special theory of relativity, time and distance are not absolute. What is the world's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy? World's most famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy is E is equal to mc square. In this, E stands for energy, m for mass and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum. Students, see the next paragraph. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. Students, here unraveling means starting to fail. Put off means to cancel a meeting or an arrangement. Students, though Einstein was solving the complicated problems of physics for the world, his personal life started becoming problematic. His mother was against his marriage with Mileva, so he cancelled his marriage with Mileva. See the comprehension questions. Who did Albert want to marry and when? Albert wanted to marry Mileva Maric right after finishing his studies. Why was his mother against this marriage? His mother was against this marriage because she thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons, but a few years later, the marriage faltered. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Students, here faltered means to become weak. Constant means happening again and again. Students, the pair Albert and Mileva married in January 1903 and they had 2 sons. But Mileva was unhappy with this marriage. After years of prolonged fighting, they divorced in 1919. When did they get married? The pair got married in January 1903. What was the reason of their divorce? Mileva was unhappy from this marriage. She could not fulfill her career dreams, so finally in the year 1919, after prolonged fighting, both of them separated. See the next paragraph. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Here, coincided means happened at the same time. Proclaimed means declared. Students, with his second marriage, started a new chapter of his life, both personally and professionally. Everyone acknowledged him a great scientist. Now he has become a world figure. He had published his general theory of relativity in 1915, which had given a new interpretation of gravity. The solar eclipse in 1919 brought proof that this theory was accurate. When did Einstein publish his general theory of relativity? Einstein published his general theory of relativity in 1915. What brought proof that Einstein's general theory of relativity was accurate? An eclipse of the sun in 1919 proved that it was accurate. Albert Einstein had calculated in the year 1915 that in the year 1919 there would be a solar eclipse. Due to it, the apparent position of the stars would change to some extent. His calculation was accurate. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. Students, here lauded means highly praised or admired. Students, Albert Einstein got Nobel Prize in 1921. Students, for your information, I want to tell you that Nobel Prize is the prize which is based on the will of famous Swedish scientist Alfred Nobel. It was established in 1895 and the first Nobel Prize was given in the year 1901. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein immigrated to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. Students, immigrated means to leave your own country to go and live in another. Fission means the action or process of dividing the central part or nucleus of an atom when a large amount of energy is released. Students, uproar means in a state of commotion, means excitement or confusion. Students, here is the comprehension questions. When did Nazis come to power in Germany? Nazis came in power in Germany in 1933. What had American physicists in an uproar? The discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. When did Einstein flee from Germany? In 1933, when Germany came under the power of Nazis, Einstein left Germany. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. His words did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Students, exploded means to burst with a loud noise. Territory means an area or land that belongs to one country. Students, here you can see the atom bomb attack on the Japanese cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. This is the picture of the great explosion. At the urging of whom did Einstein write letter to Roosevelt? At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to Roosevelt. Who was Roosevelt? Franklin D. Roosevelt was the American president. What fear did Einstein show? He warned that the atomic bomb developed by Germany was so powerful, if one of these bombs exploded on any port, it would destroy the whole area along with the surrounding territory. Students, Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact, but over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Missive means a letter, especially a long or official one. Decade, a period of 10 years. Agitating means make someone troubled or nervous. Students, for another 10 years, Einstein involved in politics. He campaigned for world peace and democracy, and his main agenda was to stop the countries involved in developing weapons and collecting arms. What did he propose through his public missive to the United Nations? He proposed the formation of a world government through an official letter to United Nations to stop the development of nuclear weapons. How did he use his popularity? He used his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen, as much as a scientific genius. Here, visionary means a person who can think about the future in an original and intelligent way. Students, Albert Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76. He could foresee the future. That is why the world celebrated him as a visionary and world citizen. When did Einstein die? Students, Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76. How was he celebrated? He was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Now students, this is the lesson, A Truly Beautiful Mind. Now we will sum up, we will recall what we have learnt in this lesson. In 1915, Einstein published his paper on spatial theory of relativity, followed by the world famous equation E is equal to mc square. He married to Mileva Maric in 1903, but their marriage did not survive much and they were divorced in 1919. His theory gave a new definition to the concept of gravity. In 1919, his theory came out to be accurate. It revolutionized physics and made him a famous figure. In 1921, he got the Nobel Prize for Physics. In 1933, he immigrated to USA. Because Nazis has come to power in Germany, as he did not want his research and finding to be used for destruction. He was the first to warn American president about the dangers of atomic bomb. After the atom bomb attack on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, he was deeply hurt and he proposed for the formation of world government to prevent recurrence of such destruction. He spent his later days in politics advocating world peace and democracy. He died at the age of 76 in the year 1955. Now students, here is the recapitulation work to recall what we have read in this lesson. Students, match the following words of list A with their meanings in list B. See the words in list A. The first word is proclaimed. Students, it will match to the declared. Yes, proclaimed means declared. Destruction. Destruction means in list A, the word destruction will match to demolition. Whole. Whole means entire. It will match to entire. Lauded. Lauded means admired or praised. Uproar. Uproar means disturbance. It will match to disturbance. So students, this is the matching words. It will help you to recall the meaning of difficult words. Now students, next fill in the blanks. Students, here are the statements, sentences from the lesson. We will complete it. Einstein published his paper on his special theory of relativity in which year? Students, in the year 1905. His theory gave a new definition to the concept of, what will come here? To the concept of gravity. He got the Nobel Prize for Physics in which year? 1921. Albert Einstein got the Nobel Prize for Physics in the year 1921. See the next sentence. He wrote a letter to American President. What was the name of American President? Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt. To warn him about the dangers of nuclear fission. America dropped the atomic bomb on the Japanese cities of, name the two cities of Japan where America dropped the atomic bomb. These cities were Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now students, see the next sentence. He used his popularity to campaign for world peace and democracy. Now students, see the last sentence. He died in the year 1955 at the age of 76. So students, this is the exercise, fill in the blanks. Now students, here are some sentences from the lesson. Choose the word from the brackets which can be substituted for the italicized words in the sentences. So students, we will choose the words from the brackets which can be substituted for the italicized words in the sentences. So see the first sentence. A few years later, his marriage faltered. So we will choose the word which can substitute this italicized word. So the meaning of this word is became weak. We can put this word in place of faltered. See the next sentence. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Here the italicized word is proclaimed. Its meaning is declared. Yes, declared can substitute proclaimed. Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup. Here agitating is the italicized word. Its meaning in this bracket is campaigning. Yes. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. What is the meaning of in an uproar? Is in a state of commotion, excitement or confusion. Yes students, so this is the last recapitulation exercise. So students, here is the homework for you. Please note down this in your notebook. What was Einstein's special theory of relativity? Described in brief. Why does the world remember Einstein as a world citizen? So students, this is the lesson, A Truly Beautiful Mind, in which you have learnt about the life journey of Albert Einstein, how he became a great scientist and how he is called a truly beautiful mind. He has advocated world peace and democracy. He was a great visionary and a world figure. So students, I hope all of you have understood this lesson very well. Thank you. All the best.